To talk about the budget, we have with us now Greg Marsh, who is a finance expert. It seems that every day we hear that the Chancellor of the Exchequer has less headroom, less margin for giveaways. Is that the direction of travel?
There was talk late last year after some very excitable economic news that suggested perhaps that we were not going to be in recession, that perhaps inflation was thoroughly under control, of the possibility of a 2p cut on national insurance or even income tax cuts. That now seems much less likely. And the kind of mood music recently has been, we'll be lucky to get a 1p cut to national insurance, and probably not a lot more than that. The UK economy is now technically in recession. Inflation, although it's come down from its highs last year, remains more than twice the Bank of England's 2% target. Core inflation, which is the one that economists really worry about, 5%. Now, while inflation remains high, it's really important that the government doesn't let the economy overheat, which means giving back too much money, tax cuts could run the risk of fueling further inflation. And the most important thing, as we've heard very consistently from Jeremy Hunt and Rishi Sunak, is to control inflation. So I'm not expecting a lot of big give-backs, but the context of an election later this year, clearly the government will want to show some leg. They'll want to try to get a good amount of good news into the budget.
What about help for small businesses, Greg? I know a lot of them, I think more than 500 of them have signed this letter calling for the tourist tax to be scrapped and also the energy bills discount scheme to be extended, because that has hammered a lot of small firms.
Well, not only small firms, it's also hammering private households. The context for the government wanting to be seen to help small businesses, private individuals, is also that we've come off the back of a very difficult period. We're still in a very difficult period. The cost of living crisis may no longer be on the headlines in quite the way it was 6 months ago, but it's still really affected people's finances. A record number of people are in debt to their current suppliers of energy services and other things. People can't change supplies. They can't shop around for cheaper deals while they are in debt. Credit card debt remains at generational highs. So for all these reasons, there's real stress and anxiety around the population. Still in polling this issue as the #1 issue at the ballot box, which means that unless and until people feel richer, they will vote with their wallet. So I think there is real pressure on the government to try to find ways of alleviating that anxiety people are still feeling about their bills. I mean, my firm, Nous, is particularly aware. We're seeing this all the time. We've got people coming to us saying, I just can't afford the bills that I'm seeing every month. I'm falling further and further behind, and that's a hard problem.
It's rather annoying to me that, of course, inflation brings extra money into the government because the thresholds for tax don't move under this government anyway. And so extra money pours in, people are made poorer. And yet, even so, at the end of that, it appears that the government doesn't have any money to give some of our money back.
Well, you've raised this spectre, which is one of the most important things going on in the background here, of stealth taxes, Michael. And again, as you rightly say, look, what are stealth taxes? They're not some complicated idea. It's very simple. Inflation means wages increase to keep pace with inflation. But as wages increase, if the income tax thresholds don't rise in lockstep with wage increases, it means that just by doing nothing, we're all effectively paying more tax. The effect of that stealth taxation is if the Chancellor does nothing else next week, the average UK income earner will effectively be about £400 less well off. Yep. So he's going to have to give a lot of money back to people to make up for those stealth taxes. We'll see what he does.
The other thing that drives me mad is that at last now we're getting a bit of interest on our savings because we have higher interest rates. And guess what? We are taxed on the interest.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, Greg Marsh. It doesn't sound like there's much that we could look forward to in the budget, but we shall see. You'll certainly see on GB News anyway.